You probably think that it could never happen to you. It is a comforting lie we all tell ourselves in the dark. We picture cult members as fragile, broken, or gullible people who are desperately searching for a savior. But the recruiters do not want the weak. They want the bright, the passionate, and the deeply idealistic. They are looking for someone exactly like you, someone who wants to change the world, someone who feels a quiet ache for deeper meaning. The trap does not snap shut all at once. It is a slow, velvet snare. It begins with the foot in the door technique, a casual invitation to a workshop, a friendly dinner, or a seemingly innocent discussion group. You walk into a room and suddenly you are surrounded by the warmest, most fascinating people you have ever met. This is love bombing. They hang on your every word. They mirror your hopes and validate your deepest insecurities. For the first time in your life, you feel completely seen and entirely understood. It is intoxicating. You are bathed in a golden light of absolute acceptance, and it disarms your critical thinking before you even realize you are under attack. You agree to come back next week. Then you agree to a weekend retreat. You make tiny, rational concessions, one after another, building a bridge of gradual commitment. Each step feels logical. Each choice feels like your own. By the time the demands become strange, you have already invested too much to walk away. The walls of your new reality are built so slowly, so carefully, that you never notice the bricks being laid. You just wake up one day and realize the doors have vanished. The illusion of immunity is the very blind spot they use to catch you. Once that blind spot is breached, the architecture of control shifts from external persuasion to internal policing. You are no longer just a recruit, you are an active participant in your own mental containment. This is where cognitive dissonance becomes the ultimate anchor. When the group demands something that violates your core values, the psychological friction is agonizing. But admitting you were conned requires a devastating collapse of your fragile human ego. So, your brain protects you. It twists the narrative, rationalizing the abuse as enlightenment, reframing the cruelty as a necessary test of faith. To assist in this mental gymnastics, the group introduces a highly specialized vocabulary. Complex, agonizing doubts are flattened by thought-terminating cliches. Phrases like, trust the process, spiritual warfare, or bourgeois thinking act as cognitive stop signs. They do not invite reflection, they paralyze it completely. When a logical question arises, these programmed responses short-circuit the critical thinking process, leaving you numb and compliant. Slowly, the very mechanics of your reasoning are systematically rewired. Objective reality becomes a blurry, distant memory, replaced by the rigid, manufactured truth of the doctrine. You are taught that the outside world is toxic, that external information is a deliberate poison designed to pull you from the righteous path. By severing your ties to independent facts, they starve your doubt of vital oxygen. You no longer trust your own eyes. You no longer trust your own mind. The erosion is complete, and the psychological cage is finally locked from the inside. With the cage locked, the final and most devastating phase begins, the systematic dismantling of who you used to be. Your original identity is treated like a disease that must be cured. Every memory, every hobby, every unique quirk is slowly sanded down until nothing remains but a blank canvas. In its place, they paint a new self completely dependent on the group. You adopt their vocabulary, their mannerisms, their rigid emotional responses. You become a perfect mirror reflecting the desires of the leader. To ensure this new self survives, your past must be destroyed. Those who loved you, like your family and your lifelong friends, are suddenly recast as dangerous enemies. You are told they are agents of the toxic outside world, desperately trying to drag you back into darkness. Every phone call you ignore, every plea you reject, severs another lifeline. Soon, the bridge to your old life is entirely burned, leaving you stranded on an island of their making. And this is when the true terror sets in. The thought of leaving is no longer just difficult, it is psychologically impossible. Without the group, You do not exist. They have convinced you that stepping outside their circle means spiritual death, madness, or utter ruin. The outside world is painted as a terrifying, chaotic abyss waiting to swallow you whole. You look around and realize you are entirely alone, surrounded only by conditional love that vanishes the second you step out of line. The walls press in, suffocating and absolute. You are trapped in a room with no windows, breathing the recycled air of their dogma. You stay not because you are happy, but because the alternative is an unimaginable void. The person you once were is completely dead, and the frail new you cannot survive out there. And even if a fleeting moment of clarity pierces that suffocating darkness, a new, insidious psychological barrier rises to block your escape. It is the crushing weight of the sunk cost trap. You have surrendered your money, your career, your family, and years of your finite life to this singular cause. To simply walk away now is to admit that all of your sacrifices were entirely in vain. It is to confess that you were profoundly, devastatingly fooled. The human mind recoils at such an agonizing realization, choosing instead to double down on the deception. We see this tragic mechanism woven through the darkest chapters of modern history, where the most destructive groups initially wore brilliant disguises. These groups never present themselves as a trap. They arrive as a beacon of hope. Consider the tragedy of the People's Temple. Jim Jones did not begin by demanding a lethal loyalty test in the jungles of Guyana. He built an integrated, progressive congregation in California, promising racial equality and socialist harmony during a deeply fractured era. His followers invested their hearts into a beautiful, rational utopia, only to find themselves captive in a paranoid nightmare. Or look at Heaven's Gate. They did not market themselves as a suicide cult, but rather as an exclusive, forward-thinking crew destined for cosmic enlightenment and a higher evolutionary plane. The members shed their earthly attachments, believing they were stepping into a spectacular, scientifically profound future. The deeper they ventured, the more impossible it became to turn back. More recently, NXIVM lured brilliant, ambitious professionals under the polished guise of executive success and rational self-improvement. They offered seminars, mentorship, and the promise of unlocking ultimate human potential. By the time the sinister reality of coercion, blackmail, and branding was revealed, the victims had already woven their entire identities and financial livelihoods into the fabric of the organization. The sunk cost was so astronomically high that leaving felt like a literal death. You look at the years you have burned, the bridges you have burned, and the terrifying emptiness of starting over from nothing. The tragic irony is that the more a group takes from you, the harder it becomes to leave them. Instead, you cling to the hollow shell of their promises, praying the illusion becomes real, simply because the devastating truth of your wasted devotion is too heavy a burden for your shattered soul to bear. But here is the most profound and liberating truth you must understand about everything we have uncovered. Falling into these invisible traps does not mean you are broken, foolish, or weak. It means you are human. Cults do not prey on our flaws. They weaponize our highest virtues. They hijack our deep biological craving for genuine connection, our desperate thirst for profound meaning, and our beautiful willingness to trust. They take the absolute best parts of who you are and twist them into a psychological prison. The answer to this terrifying reality is not to become a cold, cynical fortress, shutting out the world to protect your heart. A life lived in paranoid isolation is just another kind of cage. The true antidote, the ultimate shield for your mind, is pattern recognition. Once you learn to see the architecture of manipulation, like the love bombing, the isolation, the impossible purity tests, and the slow erosion of your boundaries, the spell is broken. You can step into the world with your heart wide open, armed with the sharp, unyielding clarity of awareness. You become immune not by closing your eyes, but by finally learning exactly what to look for. And that is exactly what we are going to build together. Next, we will dissect the mind of the puppet master. We will pull back the curtain on the charismatic leaders who build these psychological empires and reveal the dark, predictable playbook they use to turn your brightest light into their power.